everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring the world of gardening and mental health.
Good.
And our jumping off point is this YouTube video.
Okay.
It's called Gardening and Its Benefits to Mental Health from the channel Peek into Nature.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, you might be thinking, gardening and mental health, what's the connection?
Right.
Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, the video itself is a little bit unconventional,
Uh-huh.
to say the least. I mean, there's phrases in Hindi,
Yeah.
seemingly random words thrown in, and
Yeah.
it kind of jumps around between topics.
It definitely keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
But amidst all of that, the creator seems to be really passionate about this idea that gardening can be good for your mental well-being.
Yeah. And, even though the video might be a bit all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
the core idea that gardening can be beneficial for mental health is actually supported by quite a bit of scientific research.
Okay, so let's dive into that research a bit. What are some of the specific ways that gardening can impact our mental health?
Well, there are many ways. For starters, gardening involves physical activity.
Okay.
Even if it's just light activity like digging, planting, or weeding,
Uh-huh.
it gets you moving, which we know is great for reducing stress and boosting your mood.
That makes sense. It's like a workout for your body and mind at the same time.
Exactly. And then there's the connection with nature.
Okay.
Studies have shown that spending time in nature, even just looking at plants, can have a calming effect on our minds and bodies.
Mm.
It can lower your heart rate, reduce anxiety, and even improve your sleep.
So it's not just about the physical activity. It's about actually being surrounded by greenery and engaging with the natural world.
Precisely. And there's also a sense of accomplishment that comes with gardening.
Okay.
You plant a tiny seed,
Mhm.
nurture it, and then watch it grow into something beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
That process can be incredibly rewarding and can boost your self-esteem.
I can definitely see how that would be a mood booster. It's like you're bringing life into the world. And there's something so satisfying about that.
There is. And beyond the sense of accomplishment, gardening can also be a really mindful activity.
Okay.
It requires you to be present in the moment, paying attention to the soil, the plants, the weather.
So it's a bit like meditation in a way.
Yes, it can be. You're focusing on the task at hand, letting go of worries and stresses, and just being present with nature.
Uh-huh.
And research has shown that practicing mindfulness can have a really positive impact on mental health. It can reduce anxiety, improve focus, and help you regulate your emotions.
Now that we've talked about all these benefits, let's connect this back to the video. Does any of this come through in the creator's message, even though it's presented in a rather unique way?
Absolutely. The creator, despite the unconventional delivery, seems to intuitively grasp these concepts.
Okay.
Remember those phrases we mentioned earlier about
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, now that you mention it, they do seem to align with the research we just discussed.
exactly. It's like the creator in their own way is highlighting the connection between physical activity, mental well-being, and the act of nurturing plants.
Okay, so we've got this YouTube video that, while a bit chaotic, points to some real benefits of gardening for mental health. And we've also explored the scientific research that backs up those claims. Now I'm curious, what are some of the specific ways that gardening has been shown to impact things like stress and mood?
That's a great question. There have been studies that looked at the effects of gardening on cortisol levels,
Okay.
which is a hormone that's released when we're stressed.
Uh-huh.
And they found that people who spent time gardening had lower cortisol levels compared to those who didn't.
So gardening can actually help us regulate our stress response. That's amazing.
It is. And in terms of mood, there have been studies that show that people who participated in gardening programs reported feeling happier, more relaxed, and less anxious.
Mm-hmm.
They also had improvements in their overall sense of well-being.
Wow. That really reinforces the idea that gardening can have a profound impact on our mental state. It's not just a hobby, it's a form of self-care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's accessible to so many people. You don't need a huge garden to experience these benefits.
Right.
Even having a few plants in your home or spending time at a community garden can make a difference.
So we're seeing this convergence of personal experience, anecdotal evidence from the YouTube video, and scientific research, all pointing towards the same conclusion. Gardening is good for your mental health. It's like a powerful combination of physical activity, connection with nature mindfulness, and a sense of accomplishment.
Absolutely. And this actually leads us to a broader point about the growing trend of people turning to nature-based activities for their mental well-being.
So it's not just about gardening, it's about connecting with nature in general.
You're absolutely right.
What are some of the other nature-based activities that people are finding helpful for their mental well-being?
Yeah, there's a whole movement around this.
Yeah.
Things like forest bathing, which is essentially a mindful walk in the woods, are gaining popularity. People are also finding that hiking, spending time in parks,
Yeah.
or even just sitting by a lake can have a positive impact on their mood and stress level.
And it makes you wonder if we're kind of rediscovering something our ancestors knew all along, that nature is good for us.
I think you're right.
In a world that's become so fast-paced and tech-driven, it seems like we're starting to realize how important that connection to the natural world really is.
Yeah, and it ties into the growing interest in practices like mindfulness and meditation, which emphasize being present in the moment and really tuning into your surroundings.
Okay.
Gardening, in a lot of ways, embodies those principles. It encourages you to slow down, pay attention to the small details, and find joy in the simple act of nurturing something and watching it grow.
It's like gardening provides a really tangible way to practice mindfulness, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's not just about sitting still and trying to clear your mind.
Oh.
It's about actively engaging with the natural world. You're getting your hands dirty, feeling the soil, observing the subtle changes in the plants as they grow. It's a very grounding and rewarding experience.
And speaking of rewarding, I've heard that gardening can actually have some cognitive benefits as well. Is there any truth to that?
There is. Some studies have shown that gardening can help improve memory attention and problem-solving skills. It's thought that the combination of physical activity, mental stimulation, and stress reduction all play a role in these cognitive benefits.
So gardening isn't just good for our mental and emotional well-being. It might actually help keep our minds sharp as well. That's pretty incredible.
It is. And it's not just about individual benefits either.
Okay.
Gardening can also have a positive impact on communities.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
We'll think about community gardens, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They bring people together, create a shared sense of purpose, and provide opportunities for social interaction. All of those things can contribute to a sense of belonging and reduce feelings of isolation, which are so important for mental well-being.
That makes a lot of sense. Feeling connected to others is such a crucial part of our mental health. And gardening seems like it can be a great way to foster those connections. It's like you're building something together, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. And it creates a positive feedback loop. Gardening promotes mental well-being, which helps build stronger communities, which further enhances individual well-being.
It's amazing how something as simple as gardening can have such far-reaching effects. And, it makes me think back to that YouTube video we started with. Even though it was presented in a kind of unconventional way,
Right.
the creator was really onto something with this whole idea of gardening being beneficial for our mental health.
I agree. It's a reminder that valuable insights can come from unexpected places.
Yeah.
Even from a YouTube video that's a bit all over the place. The underlying message about the connection between nature, well-being, and community really resonates, and it's something that's gaining more and more recognition in the scientific community as well.
It's almost like that video in its own way is reflecting this growing movement of people seeking solace and a sense of grounding in the natural world.
I think you're right, and it highlights the fact that the language of well-being can take many forms. Sometimes it's the most unexpected voices that speak to us the loudest.
So we've talked a lot about the benefits of gardening and connecting with nature, but I'm curious, are there any potential downsides or things people should be aware of?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
While gardening and being in nature are generally very positive activities,
Okay.
there are a few things to keep in mind.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, safety is always important.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gardening outdoors, be mindful of the weather,
Right.
wear appropriate clothing and footwear, and protect yourself from the sun.
Yeah.
Also be aware of any potential allergens or irritants in your garden,
Okay.
like certain plants or insects.
That's good advice. It's easy to get caught up in the joy of gardening and forget about the practical aspects.
Absolutely. And speaking of practical aspects, gardening can also be physically demanding,
Okay.
especially if you're doing things like digging or hauling heavy bags of soil.
Right.
So it's important to listen to your body, take breaks when you need them,
Uh-huh.
and don't overdo it.
It's like any physical activity you need to pace yourself and build up gradually. You wouldn't run a marathon without training first, and the same goes for gardening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on a psychological level, it's worth noting that While gardening can be incredibly therapeutic for many people,
Yeah.
it's not a replacement for professional help if you're struggling with a mental health condition.
That's a really important point. Gardening can be a wonderful tool for self-care
Right.
and can complement other forms of treatment, but it's not a cure-all.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And for some people, gardening might even trigger negative emotions.
Oh,
For example, if someone has experienced a traumatic event related to nature,
okay.
being in a garden might bring up those difficult feelings.
So it's important to be aware of your own individual experiences and to approach gardening in a way that feels safe and supportive for you.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, it's always a good idea to talk to a mental health professional who can help you navigate those feelings and find the best approach for your well-being.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We started with this quirky YouTube video that, despite its unconventional style, pointed to the potential benefits of gardening for mental health.
Right.
Then we explored the scientific research that supports those claims, looking at how gardening can reduce stress, improve mood, boost cognitive function, and foster a sense of community.
And we also touched on some of the practical considerations and potential downsides to keep in mind, emphasizing that while gardening can be a powerful tool for well-being, it's important to approach it with awareness and to seek professional help if needed.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? We hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about the connection between gardening and mental well-being. Maybe it's inspired you to try out gardening for the first time, or perhaps it's encouraged you to spend more time in nature, even if it's just a few minutes each day.
The key takeaway is that nature has a profound impact on our mental and emotional state. And gardening, with its combination of physical activity, mindfulness, and connection with the natural world, can be a wonderfully accessible and rewarding way to tap into those benefits.
So go ahead and explore. Plant a seed, nurture a plant, take a walk in the park, or simply sit under a tree and appreciate the beauty of nature. You might be surprised at how much it nourishes your mind, body, and spirit.
And remember, the journey to well-being is a personal one. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Find what works for you, experiment, and enjoy the process.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gardening and mental health. Until next time, keep exploring and keep growing.